perception and to collaborate together, to work together to market both the city of Ironwood and all these wonderful activities that surround it. So good job, everybody. Any other comments, questions? Oh, okay, thank you so much. Moving on to old business. Thank you, Amber. Item I, discuss and consider adopting resolution number 020-015, ordering the removal and abatement of the hazard and nuisance of Detroit De Novo LLC at 143 West Oak Street.
Hey, just to add in here, Jason, I think we had talked, you were thinking of maybe giving the commission a recommendation on giving a little more time for the individual to finish their cleanup, but pick a date that if they do approve it, it would be effective.
Yep, I did speak with the owner in length today, and I also spoke with the one neighbor that lives next door. The owner indicated that he was willing to get rid of it in the next 2 weeks, and the owner next door also owns a dump trailer and gave him permission to use it for the next week here. So with that being said, he has made a lot of progress. There is a lot more to be made. So he is working on it, and I'd like to give him 2 weeks to clean it up. And if not, we will go in and handle the situation.
That would be 2 weeks from today's date if it is approved by the commission, Jason?
Yes, that's correct.
Well, this has worked very effectively in the past when we've created a deadline for a homeowner, and I would like to make a motion that if no improvement, if satisfactory improvement is not made, that we authorize DPW to do the cleanup 2 weeks from today.
Support.
Motion by Commissioner Simo, second by Commissioner Kayer to approve, to allow the homeowner 2 weeks from today and otherwise to adopt the resolution ordering the cleanup of that property. Any other comments or questions? Roll call vote, please.
Mildren?
Yes.
Simo?
Yes.
Kayer?
Yes.
Corcoran?
Yes.
Birchall?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item J, discuss and consider approving ordinance number 523, Book 5, an ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances for the City of Ironwood, Michigan by adding a new chapter, which that new chapter shall be designated as Chapter 37 of said code entitled Marijuana Establishments.
Right, thank you. Just to kind of get stuff started, just so you guys know, I actually, looks like I'm having a little bit of breakup of my internet, so 1 second. All right, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so just to kind of get things started, I'd want to talk a little bit about where we've been through this process. I'm going to share my screen here. Okay, can everybody see that?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So talk a little bit about where we've been. Just a quick summary of some of the meetings that have occurred. You know, we started this process in December of 2018. And in that time period, we've had a number of meetings, but kind of the main opportunities for public input have been throughout there's been 5 public hearings for the opt-out ordinance. There's been 3 public hearings for this specific ordinance, the adult use marijuana establishment ordinance, and 4 workshops that include public input sessions. The advisory group met approximately 14 times. And this has also been on the Planning Commission agenda throughout most of 2019, as well as a meeting in 2018 and all of 2020 this year. So there's been a lot of opportunity for this to be discussed, and included in this memo that I had sent to you guys earlier today, there is a list of all these meetings and some of the action that occurred there as well. So I won't go into it in too much detail, besides that at the first meeting on December 10th, which was a public hearing on the opt-out ordinance, This was a very well attended meeting in the auditorium. And I believe there was over 100 people that attended this meeting. And that really started the process of the city moving forward with creating a regulatory, basically a regulatory document that would control recreational marijuana in our area. And then we really went through the process of developing the ordinance over the next several months, all the way into, took till about August of 2020, or excuse me, of 2019 is when it took till about August. And then that's when the time period that the advisory group was really meeting. Then it got turned over to the Planning Commission for their review. And there was a number of, in that time period, there was a number of public hearings. They were related to the sunset provision, as well as we started the work session process as well. Then the Planning Commission took this up with a public hearing in February, and they made a recommendation to the City Commission to adopt that draft of the marijuana establishment ordinance. And then, of course, the City Commission took this up at the beginning of March, and there were some changes that needed to be made to the ordinance. And so then of course, COVID happened, and we kind of stalled out on the ordinance development for a couple of months. And then it was brought back up again in June. And we started working through work sessions as well as public hearings to get to the point that we are today. So our last public hearing was on August 24th. So really, there's been quite a bit of activity over the last 2 years on working on this. One thing that I did want to point out is that one of the real efforts of the advisory committee, and first of all, we need to thank all those folks because they were volunteers that worked on this project. And one of the things that really came out of that process is the desire to have an ordinance that started small, that was maybe a little extra restrictive at the beginning. And so the city could really analyze the landscape of what recreational marijuana would look like in our community. So by doing that, you start with a limited ordinance, and then over time, if it makes sense and things are going well, you have the opportunity to loosen some of those restrictions and allow for more operations. That was really the philosophy that the advisory group came to this process with. And I think that's the document that they really did end up with. And then, of course, with the input of the City Commission, with the additional drafts, I think that was something that was a philosophy that was maintained through the whole process. So with that, I do just want to, I'm going to switch documents here. If it doesn't switch to this document, let me know. Let's see. Let me stop the share here. 1 second. Okay, now I'm having some trouble bringing up the document. One moment. So since I'll just start talking about it.
You're frozen, Tom.
I think we may have lost him.
Maybe.
All right, I'll try to get him back.
Thank you.
Oh, there he is.
Okay, so what's happening is I'm having to go on the VPN to load the documents, and so whenever I'm on the VPN for the city, I lose access to the documents the VPN makes it unstable, and then I have to turn it off in order to be able to talk to you guys, and so I'm losing access to the documents. But I can try to talk through some of the changes, and you guys probably have them in front of you. Or if, I don't know if Karen, if there's any way you could share the document on the screen, but so some of the changes that are in the ordinance that we discussed from previous one, there was a couple of formatting issues that we had to deal with in terms of the in terms of the way the ordinance is structured. So a lot of that stuff is highlighted in green. I also had sent you guys a markup copy as well so you could see all the changes that we made between the two drafts. Today we did catch a couple additional things that I did forward on to you this afternoon in the ordinance. And they were mostly just references, so referencing other sections of the ordinance. The changes that have a little bit more impact maybe on your decision-making process is we did change some of the sign requirements. As a member of the public mentioned, we went from 3 inches lettering to 9 inches, and they also allowed for color, some of the color signage, not graphics, but that the lettering could be colored. Also, we had, let's see here. Also, we had a change to a little bit that had to do with the fee schedule. There is a $1,500 application fee, and then once somebody is approved, then they would pay the $5,000 annual fee, which is associated with the annual license fee. From that point forward, the rationale behind the fees were really based on, we looked at some of the other communities and we seem to be about on par with what those other communities are charging. The important thing is that when you do charge a fee, it is something that we need to be able to justify that cost to the applicant. So outside of that, in terms of changes, we added some additional language specifically regarding the procedural process that'll happen after this. So in terms of the competitive process, there's some language in there about how that'll occur. And outside of that, there are probably a couple more graphical changes. The map did not change at all from the previous revision. So the map is still intact in the same way as it was at the previous public hearing. So none of these changes that we've made would be considered substantive changes. So at this time, there is not a requirement for an additional public hearing. So with that, if I missed something, because I don't have the document in front of me now, if I missed something, feel free to ask if you have specific questions, or if there's something you'd like to discuss. And then if you have questions, feel free to chime in. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. I just have a question. Do you have a rubric in place for the scoring?
We do not yet. That's
Okay.
something that I guess that would be the one request, is if you guys do decide to, if the commission does decide to adopt the ordinance, our request would be that it doesn't go into effect until the sunset provision expires on November 9th. And then that would be when we would develop that over that time period. I imagine we'll probably do something pretty similar to what Iron Mountain has done. We've been going to them a lot for utilizing some of the concepts that they've been using for their application process.
Okay. And just, I made the comment before, I still think the 37-15 B and C are a little restrictive. That's on page 11. It just seems that it could be dealt with on page 5 when you talk about the license application evaluation. In my travels, I've seen some pretty nice looking signage and advertisements. I just think 37-15 B and C are a little restrictive, and those are just my comments on that. Otherwise, good job, and thanks for all the tweaks and work that you've done on it.
I think we should be doing this in a public meeting setting instead of on Zoom.
What do other commissioners feel about, do you think there's been sufficient public input on this topic?
I think there has. We've been doing this for almost 2 years now, and we've had several public comment sections and public meetings. And initially there was a lot of people coming, and then the numbers have kind of dropped off. I think we've given as many people an opportunity to voice their concerns, and I'm happy too that we've put together a team when developing this ordinance that had a lot of the stakeholders involved. It wasn't just potential business owners. We had people from the school and the library and people who would not use, the marijuana or would use the marijuana. We had a variety of people. So I think we've taken a look around, and even right now attendees, it looks like we just have 12. So I think we've done our due diligence so far.
Well, we may only have 12 people online right now. A lot of older people don't have access to internet, or they don't even know we're doing this right now. It should be done in the public.
And are there questions from commissioners or other comments?
Sure. I'll add my trying to have good insight into this. Previously, when we did have people come to the meetings and then it was in the paper, I kept track of all of the comments that were made, and I ended up with about an equal number of residents for this ordinance and against this ordinance. And that was reflective of the vote. In trying to decide, this, I think it's still 50-50. And the one thing that I've thought just recently is that Corona has impacted everything in this country, and here it's impacted everything: schools, public transportation, senior programs. Oh my goodness. So anyway, in all of the jobs that I've done, I've come into contact with primarily seniors all my life, and know thousands of seniors that live in their homes still in Gogebic and Iron counties, and the seniors in Gogebic Medical and Westgate. Probably I know them all, and so that leads me to this observation, and I'll just throw it out there for you. But the virus has impacted our country, and it's been 6 months, something like March, April, May, June, July, August, September, and nationally 200,000 people have died. So now the government forecasts that I've seen on television shows say that with the schools opening and the Labor Day holiday and the flu season, there could be an uptick, and there could be another 200,000 people that die between now and Christmas, which is absolutely horrible. So where I stand on this is erring on the side of caution. And I can tell you that when I've been in Mercer recently, quite a bit, helping seniors there in a different capacity than just public transportation. I can, it's easy to talk about another community, but they had loon days, and a lot of the people wish they wouldn't have had it. And they said, oh my God, all of the people that have visited our community, I hope we can stay as safe as we are. So there's something to be said for not attracting people from other towns to our community until this virus is more under control. So we've done a great job, and we have a lot of people that come here. They do mainly outdoor activities, and our theater hasn't been able to open, and everyone goes into stores with masks. So my feeling on this is that I'd like to keep our town, not change anything until we see what the future brings, and keep keep Ironwood looking the same for a while. On the other hand, you know, the people that there's a lot of people that buy marijuana, and I guess they deserve to have a safe, legal place to buy it, as opposed to where they buy it now, which I don't know, but they deserve that. And so at some point in the future, if I'm still lucky enough to comment on this, that would probably happen, but not for me right now. Thank you.
Any other commissioner comments? I just had a question, just clarifying. So it is legal for us to charge a separate application fee, the $1,500 one and the $5,000 one once the permit would be approved?
I'm going to go ahead and defer to Tim Dean on that one, just to make sure that it's your answer. You get a good quality answer.
Thank you. You're muted, Tim.
You have a double fee, that's legal, as long as we can justify the cost.
Okay. Thank you.
There's a lot of work involved in going through the application before the competitive process takes over. So there's costs incurred for that, and then there's costs incurred for the license fee, including enforcement efforts, law enforcement, city inspections, and so forth.
Okay. And with respect to the sign portion, with the changes that were made since the last meeting, which I wasn't able to attend, I'm sorry, but is there any thought to it? There isn't any lighting included, and it was changed to the larger letters just to make it a more visible. What are your thoughts on adding just simple lighting, like not like reader board or flashy lighting, but just some type of lighting? So, because as the winter months come and it gets dark awfully early without any type of lighting as it's written. Any thoughts on that?
I don't have any direct thoughts on that. That might be something that, if passed, could be covered under section 37-6, that license application evaluation. So maybe that's something when they throw in their business plan that could be part of it, that could be evaluated.
But right now it says no lighting is allowed, so in the ordinance. So
I don't have a problem with lighting at all.
Would the ordinance preclude someone having a external light source shining on their sign?
I think that the intent of the language, the way that it is written is that it would be no lighting of a sign, whether it's the sign itself is illuminated in some way, or if there's a light shining on the sign. I think that's the intent of the way it's written. Interpretation obviously could be different than that, but I think if you guys would like to allow it to be that a sign can be lighted from an outside light source, so not a sign that's illuminated itself, but that it's a light shining on it, I think that you would want to make that clear in the ordinance, would be my suggestion.
Well, as was pointed out, it is dark a lot, especially in the winter, and I think that change would make sense.
now I'd just like to just briefly speak to some of, I respect all of your opinions, and Commissioner Kayer, I appreciate what you said. And Commissioner Mildren, I appreciate what you said as well in terms of all of these this difficult time living in a pandemic, and we have no idea when it's going to end, which is really tricky. Ultimately, what I'm falling back on is the fact that marijuana is in our community. I think it's almost in practically every single neighborhood. And it's legal in the state of Michigan to partake. And I believe that our community is split, and I think we've had a lot of opportunity to hear from wonderful people on both sides, and I know a lot of the wonderful people who are opposed to it, that they feel passionately and are afraid and are worried, because we do have a wonderful community. Like I said, I agree that I think our community is split almost down the middle on this. I mean, in terms of the vote, it passed in the city of Ironwood just barely, over 50%. So it is a mixed issue. And I think that as Tom mentioned in the approach to this, we're taking a fairly slow approach in terms of the way the ordinance is written, and not opening it wide open and having thought through a lot of the process. And it's not perfect. Things don't make everybody happy. I just personally feel that in a state where it's legal, that I believe we should provide a way for people that enjoy this choice or want this choice of legal age to partake or be able to purchase something that's been tested and in a legal fashion and from a legitimate source, and legitimizing that law within the state. And I think that helps our job in terms of protecting our citizenry or our visitors in their health and welfare, in terms of at least making a choice of purchasing something that's, like I said, been tested, and they know exactly what they're getting and what percent THC and all that stuff. So I just wanted to make those comments. So I would, that's all.
Madam Mayor, if it's okay, I'd like to just say a few more things.
Sure.
I know these are scary times. You just kind of take a look at alcohol. Alcohol was once outlawed, and there was a stigma attached to it, and now not, there's no concerns with buying or consuming. And I know the purpose of the Michigan Regulation and Taxation of Marijuana Act, the MRTA, some of the purpose of it was to remove the product and distribution from illicit markets. It was set up to prevent revenue from going to criminal enterprises, ensure a safe product from seed to sale tracking, and ensure that there's security of marijuana establishments. I know that taxes collected will be shared with local government. There's a 10% excise tax on top of the 6% sales tax. And I know revenues will eventually go to roads, schools, and municipalities where marijuana businesses are established. And I know we're working the best to address concerns. We've done a great job with the zoning. We're working on a new nuisance ordinance for the smell. In my job, I've traveled across the UP, and I see cities in Michigan, as far as like Marquette, Ishpeming, Negaunee, Crystal Falls, and now Iron River, with more of these establishments popping up. And I've seen some of the marketing has been in good taste. Some of the places claim as high as 70 staff that they have hired. And these are jobs too that include secretarial positions and business manager type positions. And even looking at the multiple list service has shown that home values tend to increase, and you could attract more home buyers, maybe other potential businesses, entrepreneurs, and seekers. I know Ironwood, we've done a good job looking over this for the past 2 years. We've tweaked and we've tried to address most of the concerns. And pretty much if we, as a commission, vote no on this tonight, nothing changes. People will still grow it. People will still buy it. People will still use it. But if we vote yes, I think Ironwood appears to be proactive. We have the potential to bring in maybe 60 to 100 jobs if all the licenses we have are issued and they just employ maybe 5 to 10 people, I think there's a good possibility that this is a link to tourism, which might be able to bring people in to spend money, maybe look around, maybe move to Ironwood. And we have to take a look too at the potential of increased state revenue increasing where right now the revenue sharing is decreased. And ultimately, if we vote yes, we create the opportunity to have safer and central distribution, and we're creating a safer environment for people to buy a product that they're looking for. So I guess that's it for all I have.
Thank you. Any other commissioners?
I don't think I could have said it any better than Commissioner Corcoran did, so I'll just defer to her. Excellent and insightful commentary.
I would agree.
Yeah, I also agree. Good comments.
So I'm going to make a motion here to approve this ordinance. The only question I have is whether we're okay with that lighting the way it is, or if we want to change it. I don't really want to throw a monkey wrench into the work, so I guess I will just make a motion to approve the ordinance as presented.
Support.
Motion by Commissioner Simo, seconded by Commissioner Corcoran to approve the ordinance as described in item J as presented. Any other questions or comments?
I think too, like what Rick had said, if we pass tonight, that lighting doesn't change the core concept of the ordinance and could be something that looked at a later date.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Roll call vote, please.
Simo,
Yes.
Care,
No.
Corcoran,
Yes.
Mildren,
No.
Birchall.
Yes.
Motion carries 3-2.
Thank you.
Thanks everybody for their hard work.
Yes. Moving on to item K. Consider approval of change order number 1 for the City of Ironwood Downtown Square project to Rootzilla Construction LLC in the amount of $65,863.85 and authorize the mayor to sign all applicable documents.
Thank you. I do believe we have Paul Anderson from Coleman Engineering with us. Tim, are you able to see if Paul is available to come on to speak to us?
Yes.
Hello, Tim, can you hear me?
Yes, Paul, you're good.
Okay, hello everybody. So I'm here tonight with change order number 1 for the City Square project. This change order is to take care of a few issues. It is to address quantity overages that have taken place on the project at the beginning of the project. We've had some overages that were needed for doing some extra over excavation of poor soils and some rock excavation of some existing rock and rubble that were underneath the site at the beginning of the project. Also adding in some storm sewer piping that was necessary, and also to add in a couple additional lights that were part of the project, or not originally part of the project, but wanted to be added to the project. So we wanted to get these items added in via a change order at this time so that the contractor could get paid instead of leaving it all until the end of the project. We've submitted this to the MEDC for review to the state and to have their preliminary approval for doing this work. The funding for this is using the original grant budget. The bids did come in a little bit underneath the grant, the originally set budget. So these items are basically using those contingency funds that were left by the project coming in under budget.
I'd like to make the motion to approve the change order number 1 for the city of Ironwood for the downtown square project as presented in item K.
Support.
Motion by Commissioner Mildren, seconded by Commissioner Kayer to approve the change order number 1 as described in item K. Any other comments or questions? Roll call vote, please.
Kayer,
Yes.
Corcoran,
Yes.
Mildren,
Yes.
Semo,
Yes.
Birchall.
Yes,
Motion carries unanimously.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Paul. Moving on to new business, item L, discuss and consider a request from Rod and Mary Home to waive a late penalty fee for the summer taxes.
Thank you. So I'm hoping to share my screen. Tim, is that something that you can give me the ability to do?
Yeah, sorry. Meant to do that earlier.
And Paul and Tim, do we have the Holmes with us tonight too? Were they able to attend the meeting?
Yes, I believe they are in attendance.
Okay, thanks.
So just some background while Tim's giving me the capability to share my screen. We did have a request from Rod and Mary Home to waive a late penalty that was assessed on their property taxes. The property taxes were mailed out on July 1st and was contacted a few weeks back by Mary Home and Rod Home, and indicating that they were inquiring as to why their check for payment was not processed. So into looking at it further, we saw that we did not receive payment on that, and so that's why their check wasn't processed by their bank, as it wasn't received by the city of Ironwood and wasn't applied to their account. They indicated that they mailed it out on time, as they always do, and so just a quick, I wanted to share a memo with you that I put together. This wasn't part of the agenda packet, so I wanted to share it with you now with some information in it. But it's for their property at 661 South Range Road. Again, they indicated that they sent in their payment on time, as they always done in the past, and would like to request that the 3% late penalty be waived. Just a couple notes. I won't read this through in its entirety, but the charter references property taxes, kind of speaks to the mailing of taxes and taxpayers receiving their tax bill, and not receiving their tax bill doesn't forgive their penalties, or forgive their taxes or their late penalties. State of Michigan statute kind of alludes to the same thing, that failure to receive a tax bill doesn't exclude you from paying your taxes. Now this situation is in regards to the 3% late penalty. Again, the homes did receive their tax bill. They're indicating that they've made every attempt to pay on time, and that this is out of their hands and out of the city's hands as well. Just some items to consider when evaluating this request. The property owners made multiple contacts with city staff to address the issue. They spoke with me multiple times, as well as other city staff. The documentation, a check register was provided to show that their check was written for the date and amount as noted in their letter. So we did review that. Also, tax records show a long history of on-time tax payments. Our current tax program goes back 15 plus years, showing that the homes have always made their tax payments on time. And specifically for their summer taxes, they're always been paid in July as far as our history goes, again, for 15 plus years. So just some items to note when evaluating this request. Again, I believe Mary and or Rod Home are available if you'd like them to speak directly. Otherwise, if you have any additional questions for me, I'd be happy to answer those.
I only invite Rod or Mary Home, if they'd like to make a comment or speak, they can. Just to invite them to, if they'd like.
Yeah, that based on the information that you've provided, Paul, when people consistently pay their taxes on time, and then something changes that, and they've sent the check and we didn't receive the check, I'd like to make a motion to waive the late penalty fee for summer taxes based on all of the years that they've paid them on time.
Support.
Motion by Commissioner Mildren, seconded by Commissioner Corcoran to waive the late penalty fee for the summer taxes as described in item L based on those items that were delineated in your memo, in the memo. Any other comments, questions from commissioners? Roll call vote, please.
Corcoran,
Yes.
Mildren,
Yes.
Semo,
Yes.
Care,
Yes.
Birchall.
Yes,
Motion carries unanimously.
thank you. Moving on to item M, discuss and consider entering a 5-year agreement with Axon for new tasers for the Ironwood Public Safety Department.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A little history about our tasers. In 2012, we started our taser program, which is a less lethal weapon that the officers carry. And initially, we started with 2 to 3 tasers. That's what our budget allowed. Now, Axon has gone to the officer safety plan, which has allowed to spread those costs over 5 years. So it allows us to implement a plan that would work more efficiently for our officers and for the community. So it allows us to purchase 5 tasers, which we truly require to have, because in the past we've had 2 tasers, but we had to constantly be purchasing batteries where these are rechargeable units. So while 2 are being used, 2 will recharge, and then we'll have our 5th taser as a backup, or if we have an additional officer on for various reasons. So looking at the cost, there is an increased cost, but with that increased cost, we're going to increase training with some scenario-based training. Past training was not scenario-based, it was more just PowerPoint and stationary training. The other component of this is device management. So we're going to be downloading anytime the taser is used for testing. Each officer is required to test, so it verifies testing was done and if there was a use. In addition, it outfits all of our officers while on duty for their safety and the community safety. So it's a win-win by allowing us to spread out this cost. We do have this program with our body cameras, so it allowed us to have body cameras to spread that cost out over 5 years. So with the increased cost, what I didn't factor in was our insurance company, the Michigan Municipal Risk Management Authority provides a grant for this. So we will be receiving approximately $7,000 to $10,000 in grant funding. So we're truly looking at about a $5,000 to $8,000 increase over 5 years. So that would be an increase of approximately $1,200 to $1,800 over 5 years, which we could absorb within our budget at this time.
I'd like to say that the concept of a less lethal weapon has a lot of appeal to all of us, I'm sure. And it's a great tool for public safety, and the price is excellent. And I'd like to make a motion that we approve the agreement as described in item M.
Support.
Motion by Commissioner Semo, seconded by Commissioner Corcoran to approve the agreement as described in item M. Any other questions or comments? Roll call vote, please.
Mildren,
Yes.
Semo,
Yes.
Care,
Yes.
Corcoran,
Yes.
Birchall.
Yes,
Motion carries unanimously.
thank you.
Thank you.
Item N, discuss and consider approval to install irrigation system for the downtown art park.
Thank you. We're bringing this for your consideration. This came up recently as we are working on the downtown square project. There is irrigation that's going to be installed in that area, which will tend to keep the turf in really good shape and make it more aesthetically pleasing. If you remember in the art park when that was first put in, or shortly after that, we had a gentleman that was maintaining the art park lawn, watering it every day. It looked really, really nice. Did a great job. He had unfortunately passed away, and there is no irrigation of that area now. So we wanted to at least have you discuss, see if you wanted to move forward with something like this. We do have a contractor that will be putting the irrigation into the downtown square. So we did get a price from them since they will be in town to consider doing the art park. You can see the cost for the irrigation is $3,800. Actually, a very expensive part of this is a backflow preventer that has to be put on an irrigation system, which brings that price up to $7,200. So we want to get your thoughts on that, see if you would like to move forward or not. But we wanted to lay that out for you as an option to consider.
Are there any thoughts on this topic or comments?
I drove by and I looked at it after I left City Hall this afternoon. It looked pretty green to me. I think it's a waste of money.
I think that we need a little bit more time to see if we actually need this. It's kind of, I just don't see the need.
Any other questions or comments on this topic? Scott, is there, have you gotten an estimate for this type of a project if we didn't have that contractor doing work at the same time near the city square? I'm just curious about that.
Yeah, no, we have not. There aren't a lot of irrigation contractors in our area. So we just had that individual was here and he provided a quote to us. So we want to just bring it for your attention for discussion. Doesn't seem to appear to be a high priority project at this point. We can always bring it back in the future if needed.
Okay. Do we need a motion to approve or a motion to table, or?
I think if there's no motion, then it would die for, I think lack of a motion, I think.
Okay. So I'll put it out there to see if anybody would like to make a motion. If not. Okay. No motion, so we'll move on. Item O, discuss and consider approving an agreement with ChargePoint for an electric vehicle charging station.
Thank you. This is something we actually do get requests for periodically from people trying to bring their electric cars up to our area. Right now, their only source of power would be possibly in our campground or maybe some other random power source in the area, but I don't think there is an official charging station. This was discussed when we did the downtown square project. The charging station was not something that was grant eligible. With the grant, there is power available at the site, easy power, easy access to it. So we did research different charging stations. ChargePoint was the one that had actually I'll call it a lease agreement. If you, most of these charging stations, you have to buy outright, you have to maintain them. If they get knocked down, you have to fix them, repair them. With this agreement through ChargePoint, they take all that on through their lease agreement. And it was fairly reasonable at $2,400 a year. So again, this is a little more forward thinking, I would think, trying to encourage individuals with electric vehicles to come to our area, or if they're going through the area, to stop in our downtown and maybe charge your car and stop and enjoy some of the downtown businesses, that type of thing. So it is looked at as a potential economic development tool also. Again, this would be a 5-year commitment. It is a lease agreement, and again, like I say, the power is available for this, and we would actually be able to charge a fee for it too. So there would be a fee set that would hopefully recoup some of the cost. We really don't know what the demand would be for this, but hopefully we recoup some of the cost of this annual fee. So we're bringing it for your consideration to see if you'd like to move forward with that.
Are there any comments or questions from commissioners on this?
I'm just curious. Oh, go ahead, Ken.
Go ahead.
Just curious about what the future, if the charging station projections would be that it would be useful, that technology isn't going to change in the next few years. Is this technology mature, I guess is what I'm asking.
Yes, I guess the beauty of this agreement is they maintain, all the hardware and the software. So if there are any software upgrades, technology upgrades, that's part of ChargePoint's responsibility. So there would be no other additional cost to the city for the upgrades to the facility if there were needed to be.
Question. I don't know anything about a charge point for an electric vehicle. So do you know when a person pulls up to this, how much time is involved in charging their vehicle? Does it cost something similar to if you can drive your vehicle 200 miles after you charge it? Does that mean that you're going to pay something like a car that gets 30 miles to the gallon, and you might pay $10 for this charge? I just don't know anything about it.
Yeah, it's fairly new to us too up here. We don't run across this too often, but I'm talking with the charge point folks and some other similar type of vendors. Again, this fee would be set by us, so we'd go with like an industry standard fee for this, so that they are paying for the power. And again, we can set what that fee is, so that's something that can be set and can be changed if it needs to be changed fairly easily. And what was the other question, Commissioner Melvin? Was there another question with that?
Well, it was just on the time it took to charge.
Oh, okay.
And so if one person was charging, would another person wait a half an hour, or would they have to wait 3 hours? You know, a lot of things I wouldn't know about this.
Sure, yeah. And what we're learning about it, I think there's a couple of different options. One is, I'll call it the basic option, where they go to a camping area and plug into the outlet, and that takes many hours, is my understanding, for them to charge off of that type of facility. This is in the middle of the road. There's actually another quick charging facility that does it very quickly, but that's extremely expensive, way beyond our capacity to even consider. So this is kind of a middle of the road charging station. My understanding, it takes, again, I'm not that familiar with the electric cars, but it's an efficient way to charge your car. So I'm believing it takes maybe an hour or maybe 2, depending on, I don't know if there's different car capacities, that type of thing. It does take some time for them to do it, but it's much quicker than it would be with any other of the facilities in the area. And with this, it is a dual station, so there are 2 charging, there's one post, if you will, but there are 2 charging cords that go with this. So there could be 2 cars charging at the same time if there happen to be 2 that needed to be charged. So I think it's fairly quick from a charging standpoint. Probably not as quick as one of the quick charge stations, but those are very expensive and beyond our capacity. So.
Commissioner Corcoran, you wanted to say something earlier?
It just sounds like an interesting concept. I think approving this would be kind of a proactive approach to invite more travelers or different travelers to our area. So I would have the notion here to approve the agreement with ChargePoint for an electric vehicle charging station as described in item O.
Is there support?
I'll second.
Motion by Commissioner Corcoran, second by Commissioner Simo to approve an agreement with ChargePoint as described in item O. I'll just add a tiny bit of trivia that in my business, I actually had somebody this weekend that was looking for a place to plug in their hybrid or electric vehicle. So clearly that's a need in the area, and as electric technology in vehicles grows and becomes more popular, and as Commissioner Corcoran eloquently stated, it could be an interesting sign of becoming, of doing something progressive in our community. Any other comments or questions?
I just had one other question. Is there a benefit of doing it now during this project that we would lose out on if we didn't do it now?
Again, the cost is to us. So the project itself, the Downtown Square project, does have the power available. This would just finish off the project. There is a spot identified for it, so it would get put in concurrently with the finishing of the construction. Again, this could be added a year or 2 from now if you didn't want to go forward with it. But I guess the advantage would be it would finish off the project and add this other amenity to the facility down there.
And then you mentioned, Scott, earlier that if there that the charge point company would cover the liability in the event it were vandalized or damaged or anything, or would it fall on the city?
That's correct. That would be charge points responsibility. So they maintain it. If it does somehow something goes wrong with it, they will send a technician out to fix it. So
Okay.
that's all charge points responsibility.
Okay. Any other questions? Roll call vote, please.
Semo,
Yes.
Care,
No,
Corcoran,
Yes.
Mildred. Mildred,
We can't understand you, Jim.
we lost you.
Jim, you're going to have to get yes and no flashcards.
Or
Yes.
thumbs up is
Okay.
yes.
All right.
Thumbs
Birchall,
up. Okay, yes,
motion carries on a 4-1 vote.
thank you. Item P, discuss and consider approval to purchase historical signage for the Iron Bell Trail in Ironwood.
Thank you. We've talked about this off and on ever since the trail in Ironwood has been constructed. Again, we were the first part of the trail to get built and did not have all the funding available that their other phases of the trail have. So they have some additional amenities, and some of those are the historic signs that you see if you go to Bessemer and now Ramsey. They have some really nice historic informational signs that are really attractive to for individuals using the trail, and also it helps attract people. There's a lot of people that do like the area history. So with that, we just had the third phase of the trail constructed between Bessemer and Ramsey. The contractor, or I should say the supplier of the signs, we reached out to them to get a price because they do have a contract for the signs, and we actually negotiated a price lower than what the contract amount was. It would include, they would help us install, but it would include some effort on our part to bolt them to some concrete and get the site ready. But with that, the prices were significantly lower than what the bid was. We did look at our funding with Paul, and we did have funds remaining from our first phase of the project. We had a number of different donating entities that donated to help with the match for that project. So we had about $12,000 remaining that is intended and committed for trail improvements. So we took a look at that, took a look at the cost, and with what's proposed, it would be one type 1 entrance sign. So if you've been to Bessemer at their trailhead, you probably saw a nice rounded sign that's there. It says Iron Bell Trail, and it also has some historical information on it. And then we could include up to 3 historic signs along the trail at various locations through Ironwood. And again, that amount would result in $11,434, and we have roughly $12,000 available in that fund remaining from the phase 1 work. With your approval, then, if it is approved, we'd work with the supplier to get those signs built, to get those installed, and then work with the Historic Society on some proper content and locations for the signs where there's some historically relevant locations, which I believe there are a number of them along the trail. So we're looking for the City Commission to give us direction on that if you'd like to move forward with getting those signs developed and installed.
I think it's a terrific idea. We have the money in place, and I'll make a motion that we approve the purchase of historical signage as described in item P.
Support that, maybe. I'd like to support that.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Semo, seconded by Commissioner Mildred to approve the purchase of historical signage as described in item P. Commissioner comments, questions?
Yeah, I'd like to speak on behalf of the Friends of the Iron Bell Trail, unofficially, of course, but this has always been a top priority of ours. And when the first phase was done, all of us that the hundreds of people that have worked on this, we've always thought it would be so important to have pictures and signs for the roundhouse and the viaduct and so many of the other elements that made Ironwood great throughout the years. So so it's just wonderful that that this is possible, and I know that there would also be groups that would donate to this if any additional dollars were needed.
Any other comments from commissioners? Questions? I would just like to add that we often hear from people, because the development of more trails are so wonderful, but stopping and reading the historical signage along the Iron Bell Trail just adds another component, and it speaks to the history of that particular area. And Ironwood is just filled with such a rich history of past, and honoring that history by reminding and educating people on our wonderful history is an important part of would just add so much to that feature and that trail system. So if there's no other comments, we'll move on to a roll call vote, please.
The wording on the signs will be as described in the pictures?
I don't think they've been crafted yet. Is that correct, Scott?
Correct. The signs are not built. The actual content for the signs doesn't exist yet. We do have some content for the entrance signs. We had some made up when that project went, and we had to back the signs out of the project. The rest of them, we work with the Historical Society and come up with content and pictures and information on the historically significant locations.
Well, we know what they're going to say exactly.
We'll have to work through that, Commissioner Kayer, with the Historical Society. We don't know what that would be yet, but it'll probably take some time. I would guess by, the structures themselves is what you're would agree to purchase here, and then the content will work with the Historical Society, which I would assume would then hopefully be prepared over the winter and put in place in the spring would be the goal.
They won't say nothing on there to the fact, welcome to Ironweed or anything like that?
No, I won't comment on that, but there will be appropriate information, appropriate historical information on there. And the entrance sign says Iron Bell Trail, and then it would be proper historic information on the sign.
Perfect, thank you.
And Commissioner Mildren?
Oh, thank you. So I also love to add that that when you go on social media, any references to Ironwood's past, to the history of Ironwood, are viewed by thousands of people, and I know one of the people like Mr. Sell that have shared viaduct pictures, for example, are treasured by a lot of people, and to have those kinds of signs on that trail, as you spoke, Madam Mayor, would be so wonderful, because people would know and see right at the spot where some things were located what we all experienced and in growing up here in Ironwood. So thank you all.
Any other questions or comments? Roll call vote, please.
Kayer,
Yes.
Corcoran,
Yes.
Mildren,
Yes.
Simo,
Yes.
Burchell.
Yes,
Motion carries unanimously.
thank you. Item Q, Mayor's appointment.
Madam Mayor, just for a clarification, I'm reading this and I'm not sure you're aware that Bob Turvinen and Scott are on the board. That's a board appointment. The other two are on the authority, and Jim Mildren is an alternate currently.
Okay.
And these are just reappointments. Looks like one was never done, and yeah.
So we're looking to reappoint Bob Turvinen and Scott Erickson to the Cogibic Iron Wastewater Board.
Correct.
With terms for a 2-year term expiring June 30th, 2021.
Yes.
And reappointing Commissioner Simo to the Gogebic Iron Wastewater Authority, and Commissioner Mildren as the alternate on that authority. Is that correct? And for 2-year terms expiring November 30th of 2022. Okay.
If they agree.
I will make a motion. We approve the mayor's appointments.
Support.
Motion by Commissioner Semo, second by Commissioner Kayer to approve the
Corcoran.
mayor's. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Corcoran. To approve the mayor's appointment. Any other questions, comments? Roll call vote, please.
Corcoran,
Yes.
Mildren, Semo,
Yes.
Care,
Yes.
Birchall.
Yes,
Motion carries unanimously.
thank you. Item R, the manager's report.
Thank you. Just 2 items to touch base on. One is just a reminder that the water main flushing will start this coming Sunday. They do it at night. That's September 20th, and it's about a 2-week process for that. And there's been a lot of information put out. There's been door hangers that have been put out, a number of articles in the newspaper, various newspapers actually, and our website does have all the zones and the timing of the zones for the flushing. So we just want to make everybody aware of that. We did a very thorough flushing in the spring, and that went very well, and expect the same for this fall. We also will have bottled water available to anybody that might need it at our public safety department. So that'll be available effective when the flushing does start. The other item was just an update on the Civic Center. If you've been by there, you see the structure coming out of the ground. A lot of the brickwork is done, block work, and the roofing will be completed, I believe, this week. And they'll get the building enclosed, then they can start on the interior of the building itself. So that is moving along. And also with the dasher boards I believe have been removed on the inside, the old dasher boards, and the new dasher boards will be installed soon from the other dasher board company. So that is moving along well. The goal is to get that facility opened for use here in October. It may not be fully complete inside, but the goal is to get it where they can skate and start practicing. Then they can finish the inside work as that is occurring. So that's the extent of my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Item S, are there other matters from commissioners? No other matters? Okay. Moving on to, is there a motion to adjourn?
Make that motion.
Support.
Motion by Commissioner Semo, second by Commissioner Corcoran to adjourn at 7:18 p.m. Roll call vote, please.
Mildren, Semo,
Yes.
Care,
Yes.
Corcoran,
Yes.
Birchall.
Yes,
Motion carries unanimously.
thank you. We're
Good night,
adjourned.
everybody.
Good
Good night, everybody.
Have a
Bye-bye.
good night.